Okay, so before I play this video, we know that for the last couple of weeks, we have been focusing on the Paleolithic era. In the Paleolithic era, how people got their food was by hunting and gathering. And we know that they had to live a nomadic lifestyle because they had to eat all the food that was around. So they hunted those animals, they gathered those berries, but once all the food supply ran out, they didn't just stay in one area to die, they had to keep moving and moving and moving to different places for more food in order to survive. We know that they traveled in small groups, and their dwellings, which is a structure that one lives in, was caves and different huts made out of sticks, animal hide, things like that. Their technology was stone, bone, and antler tools, and those tools, that technology made their life easier by allowing them to hunt, and that's how they got their food. Now we are making this shift. A revolution happened, a great change, a turning point, an event that leads to a lasting change. The Neolithic revolution was agriculture was created, and we know that agriculture means farming. So I'm going to play this video and you're going to see the sudden change from hunter-gatherers to farmers. We're going from the Paleolithic era to the Neolithic era, where agriculture was created. So let's listen to this video now.
In an age of daily technological advances, it's hard to believe that farming, yes farming, planting and harvesting crops, was one of the greatest advances that humans ever made. This great farming achievement came about during the Neolithic Age, or New Stone Age. Before this time, people followed the animals and wandered in search of edible plants and fruits. We called them hunters and gatherers, and they were always on the move.
So in the Paleolithic era, we consider them hunters and gatherers because that's how they got their food. They were always on the move, meaning that they lived a nomadic lifestyle because once they stayed in one spot and they ate all the food around, they had to keep traveling from place to place to place in search of food. So they didn't have a permanent shelter and they kept moving.
Slowly over thousands of years, people learned to raise or domesticate animals, to plant seeds and harvest crops. Seems like a no-brainer to us, right? But this was huge. Having a stable or dependable food supply allowed people to quit wandering around and stay put. Raising sheep, goats, and cows was less dangerous and more dependable than hunting. So why the big deal? When people settled down to watch their crops grow, they began to build permanent shelters. They were going to be there for a while, so it was worth it to them to build strong houses out of mud bricks, stones, and trees. These strong houses provided protection from weather and wild animals. They had room for storage and new ways of cooking food. They made life more comfortable and allowed people to live in larger communities.
So to compare the Paleolithic to the Neolithic, the Paleolithic people, their dwellings, the structures in which they lived, were caves and huts. But now, in the Neolithic era, their dwellings are made out of mud brick. So they use mud and brick, more advanced materials, to create their permanent dwellings. So now they're able to live in one spot. In the Neolithic era, they are considered sedentary. They're able to live in one spot permanently. They have the materials, they have the permanent food supply. They can grow crops and they can farm, so they can stay in one spot. Now, in the Paleolithic era, thinking back, they traveled in small groups. But now, in the Neolithic era, they're able to have large communities, large groups.
More food in one spot allowed for more people to live there. These groups of people, or communities, allowed for people to work together on big projects like clearing fields or digging irrigation ditches. Communities also allowed them to split up the workload. While some people grew crops, others built houses or made tools or wove baskets.
Okay, so thinking back to the Paleolithic era, their technology was made out of stone and bone, and those tools, the technology that made their life easier, was to hunt. Now, in the Neolithic era, their tools were made out of more advanced materials, also could still be used out of stone, bone, and antler, but these tools, this technology, was now used to farm, to grow crops, to weave baskets. More importantly, though, we're thinking of the tools that they used to farm. So that is a change from the Paleolithic era to the Neolithic era. Now, to go over a few things. Right over here, we have some vocabulary words and definitions. We've been through a lot of these. A couple ones I want to go over is agriculture, which means farming. Dwelling, a structure that one lives in. Permanent is long-lasting. Now we know that they now have crops, which is plants grown for food. So the Neolithic Revolution was a turning point in history. Turning point. Okay, so the Neolithic Revolution was a turning point, and turning point is an event that leads to a lasting change. So we know that the development of agriculture, farming, being created, is a turning point. So it changed the way the Paleolithic people lived their lives. Now we're going into the Neolithic era. A turning point in history is a time or event in which a significant and lasting change occurs. So based on your knowledge of Paleolithic life and the vocabulary words above, predict, so make a guess, what changes occurred during Neolithic Revolution in the space below. So this video, I am creating and going over exactly what we taught, what you guys learned in class on Monday. I am recording this in case someone didn't come to class or they need to look back at the video to go over some extra tips to help them remember the lesson. So this doesn't have to be done as one of your assignments. We are going to be doing this in class, but I'm just reviewing what we did in class on Monday. Okay, now going back. Okay, so the Fertile Crescent, birthplace of agriculture. Remember, agriculture means farming, so we can see this picture right here. Fertile, good for growing crops, and crescent, a shape that has a single curve on two sides and comes together at each point. The Fertile Crescent is an important region in global history. It is located in modern-day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and Egypt. Today, much of the area is not productive for farming, but in the past, it was a region that was rich in agriculture. It includes the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and the Nile River Valley. Some of the first agricultural societies developed in the Fertile Crescent, and later the first civilization started here. After the Neolithic Revolution transformed life for the people in the Fertile Crescent around 11,000 BCE, farming practices spread from here to North Africa, the Indian subcontinent, and Europe. So this was where it all started, where farming all was started.